Chapter 9. Vicky sat dazed through lunch, barely touching her tuna sandwich. She blinked back tears in geometry class. She knew she had been rude to Mr. Mitchell. He'd only been trying to help, but she couldn't stop herself. He had made her feel worse about everything. It was as if everyone was so used to Vicky, the good student, Vicky, the big sister, Vicky, the helpful friend, that they couldn't understand that she was coming apart inside. It was like she was invisible somehow, hidden in plain sight. By gym class, Vicky was exhausted. She slumped down on the bench in front of her locker. Her head throbbed worse than ever. She felt weak and lightheaded from not eating. Her empty stomach rolled with queasy waves. "Has Dad come home yet?" she wondered. "Is he okay?" Around her, girls laughed and joked as they changed into their gym clothes. Normally, she would join them, but today Vicky couldn't move. Her legs felt like dead weights. Her feet felt glued to the floor. The last thing she wanted to do was play basketball. "Shouldn't you be getting dressed, Miss Fallon?" said Miss Kinney, her gym teacher, standing at the edge of her row of lockers. She paused and eyed Vicky closely. "You don't look so good. You feeling okay?" She thought to herself, "My parents are fighting. My dad left us 2 days ago. We don't know where he is." Just thinking about it made her stomach cramp. She wished she could find the words to unburden herself to someone. Instead, she just shook her head and mumbled, "I don't feel very well. It's my stomach. Can I go to the nurse?" Ms. Kinney felt Vicky's forehead and then studied her face. "Maybe you'd better," she said, handing her a hall pass. A few minutes later, Vicky was standing in the nurse's office. "What's the matter, honey?" said Nurse Wilkins, a heavy-set woman wearing colorful purple glasses. "My stomach," Vicky admitted, rubbing the spot under her chest. "Right here." Nurse Wilkins pressed a gentle hand around Vicky's abdomen. "That hurt?" Vicky shook her head. "Inside. It sort of burns." "How long has this been going on?" "A week or so," Vicky told her, trying to remember the first time she had noticed the feeling. It was while her parents were arguing last week. But really, as she thought about it, she realized it was much longer. Several times over the summer, when the tensions at home seemed about to boil over, Vicky had felt a tight, burning feeling in her stomach. It had been months. "You worried about something? Does it hurt more when there's something on your mind?" Vicky hesitated. The nurse seemed nice, but she wasn't about to tell her the whole story. "Yeah, I guess so," she said vaguely. "Have you eaten anything today?" Vicky shook her head. Nurse Wilkins frowned. That's a bad combination, child," she muttered. "You think you could eat a little something now? There's some applesauce in the fridge there." She nodded toward a small white appliance. "And I can get you something from the cafeteria if you want it." The mention of food brought on a wave of nausea. Vicky shook her head. "No thanks," she murmured. "If it's okay, I just want to lie down for a little while." The woman studied Vicky's face. She seemed about to say something, but instead nodded. "All right, go on and lie down. I'll chuck you at the bell." Vicky lay back on a blue vinyl cot, and Nurse Wilkins pulled a curtain around her for privacy. She listened as other students wandered in. A freshman named Lionel. A junior named Brasana. In the dark, Vicky's mind churned over the events of the past few days. "Maybe Dad is home already," she told herself. "Maybe he got that job. Maybe he and Mom are talking right now, hugging each other like old times. Please let it be true." "Feel any better?" Nurse Wilkins asked when the final bell rang. "Maybe a little," Vicky mumbled. Nurse Wilkins felt her forehead again and helped her off the cot. "Well, sounds to me like you have too much on your plate, Vicky. and sometimes that can make your stomach hurt. Sometimes it can do serious damage, too, she added. Now, I want you to make sure you get some food in your system so you don't get weak. And if you ask me, I think you might be stressed about something. Talk to someone. Your parents. Some close friends. Someone you can trust. Better to get that stuff out so it doesn't eat you up inside. You hear? Vicky nodded. But what if they're all part of the problem? Vicky wanted to say. And if that pain in your stomach doesn't go away, you need to see a doctor. She pulled a bright blue sheet of paper from the top of a pile. These places can help if money's tight. Vicky looked down as Nurse Wilkins handed her a list of free clinics. She almost refused it, just to hide that her family didn't have money to pay. But then she stopped herself, slipping the paper into her pocket. I have to go, she said quickly, eager to escape the nurse's stare. Thank you. Vicky rushed to her locker. She wanted to get home fast to find out about Dad and check on Abuelo. But as she turned the corner, she found Teresa leaning against her locker, waiting for her. All right, enough. What's going on? What's wrong? She barked. I heard you went to the nurse's office in gym. Shanetta Green said you were sick and might be pregnant. I'm not pregnant, Vicky fumed, her head pounding. I'm just tired. Tired? Teresa scoffed. I've seen you tired. You're more than tired. You look busted. She peered into Vicky's face, frowning. You got these dark circles under your eyes, and your skin don't look right. Thanks a lot. Look, I gotta go, Vicky said, trying to pass by her, but Teresa moved in her way. No, wait, Vicky. Seriously, I'm worried, girl. You've been acting like a zombie in class. What is it? Are you okay? Vicky looked up at her old friend. The anger and judgment that had been in her eyes lately was gone, replaced by a look of concern. It was as if the bitter words between them had never happened, that Teresa knew something was seriously wrong. Vicky didn't know where to begin. Please, Teresa, just let me go home, she said, unable to look into her face. Why won't you talk to me? Before Martin came along, we used to be like sisters, remember? Teresa said, grabbing her arm. Did he hurt you? Vicky closed her eyes. She could feel them burning. No, it's not like that, Vicky said, unable to hold back anymore. It's my family, she choked, struggling to say the words aloud. They're broke. All they do is fight anymore. The other night, my dad almost hurt my brother. Dad left home 2 days ago. He's never done that before. It feels like everything's coming apart, you know? As she spoke, a dam of emotion broke inside her, and tears ran down her face. Teresa slipped her arms around Vicky and hugged her, hard. Oh, girl, she murmured, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. And I thought you and Martin were having problems. We are, but that's another story. He doesn't even know about this. No one does, Vicky admitted, telling her quickly about everything that happened in the last few days. I don't know what's going to happen. I keep telling myself they'll be okay, but what if I'm wrong? I'm almost scared to go home. I don't know what I'm going to find there. So take me with you, said a voice behind them. Teresa and Vicky turned to see Steve. How long had he been listening? In the distance behind him was Martin, darting through the crowded hallway toward them. No, Vicky groaned, fearing another clash between them. Look, there's nothing anyone can do for me, okay? She said, wiping her eyes and stepping away from her locker. I gotta go. My mom and my grandfather are waiting for me. Vicky, what's going on? Why are you crying? Martin asked, his eyes wide with concern and worry. Part of her wanted to tell him, to dive into his arms and forget everything. But there was no time. Abuelo needed her. She couldn't get into everything in the middle of the hallway, not with her grandfather waiting for her, not with Dad missing, Now with her brother in trouble, she needed to get home and find out what was happening first. "I can't, Martin," she said, touching his shoulder. "I'm sorry, but I need to go home right now." Martin acted as if her touch burned him. "Oh, I get it. You can tell him, but you can't tell me," he grumbled, looking at Steve. "It's not like that. It's just that—" "No, that's exactly how it is," Martin protested. "You won't even give me a chance anymore. I can't keep doing this, Vicky. It's not fair." "Yo, she don't owe you nothing, Sanchez," Steve cut in, glaring at Martin. "Are you stepping to me, Holmes?" Martin growled, his face twisting into an angry sneer. Vicky couldn't believe what was happening. Everything was spinning out of control again. She couldn't deal with it. She was about to scream when Teresa stormed right by her. "Can't you two just stop it?" Teresa yelled, pushing in front of both of them so Vicky could pass. They turned toward her as if they were surprised at the strength of her voice. "If you were her friends, you'd listen to her and leave her alone. Right now, you're only making her problems worse. Go home, girl," she added. "I got this." Vicky glanced back and saw the anger and hurt on Martin's face. She knew she had to talk to him, but not now, not yet. She had to get home first. Vicky noticed the dented cardboard box on her stoop as she neared her house. Everything else on her street looked the same. Oil-stained asphalt streets, cracked sidewalks framing small burned-out lawns, stucco one-story houses with barred windows. But the box was unusual. It couldn't have been there long, or else it would have been stolen. Vicky grabbed it and headed inside. "What is that?" Abuelo asked, as she placed it on the table. With her grandfather at her side, she peeled back the cardboard and saw a single yellow sheet of paper covered with Dad's messy handwriting. She couldn't help herself. Her eyes scanned the page. "My dearest family, I have lied to you for too long, and I can't bear to tell you the truth in person. You'd be right to call me a coward, or something worse. A man is supposed to work. I'm supposed to pay the bills and keep a roof over our heads. When the dealership closed, I couldn't do that. The money stopped coming in, but the bills never stopped. Car payments, insurance, credit cards, the mortgage. You heard the calls. A while back, I started betting on sports to make some cash, but that only dug the hole deeper. I kept telling myself that I'd find work, and my luck would turn. It never happened. We're thousands of dollars in debt. The bank is taking our house. I tried to fight them. I did terrible things, stealing from you so I could raise money. I bet it all and lost. When I snapped in the kitchen, I crossed the line. Another second, and God knows what could have happened. I would never forgive myself if I hurt you. When I looked in your eyes, I knew it was over. For your mother and me, this has been a long time coming. I am sorry we didn't prepare you. I know you'll land on your feet. I promise to find you someday when my luck has changed. Princess, help your mother and keep up with your schoolwork. Danny, forgive me. I never meant to hurt you. I love you both. You are good kids. I know you'll be okay. Yolanda, I'm sorry, but you know it's better this way. Love always, Dad. No! Vicky screamed. The room spun around her. The floor seemed to rise and sink as if it was being smashed by violent waves. She slumped down in a chair, reading the words again in disbelief. "What does it say?" Abuelo asked. "What does it say?" Vicky sank to her knees. Tears dripped from her eyes, spilling into the bottom of the box, landing on an old silver necklace. Beneath it was a stack of papers bound in rubber bands. Vicky saw the words, "Final Notice of Foreclosure," on one of them. She felt as if she was going to throw up. "Look, that's your grandmother's cross," Abuelo said. "How did it get there?" Vicky closed her eyes. She knew the answer. Dad had taken it, but didn't sell it. Instead, he brought it back. His final act. "No!" she screamed.